Okay, today we're going to be looking at section 12.8, which is the last section in this chapter, chapter 12, which is the last chapter of the textbook. So this is the end of grade 8 maths. Wonderful. And we're going to be looking at something called the midpoint formula. And this is a formula which enables us to calculate the midpoint of any line segment. Which is a useful thing to know. So we're going to use, this is our line segment here. We're going to use the same notation that we've used before about the endpoints. We're going to call the first point, point 1, and so the endpoint is x1, y1, and the second endpoint is x2, y2. And what we're trying to find is the midpoint, which is going to be somewhere here. Now, the point about this is it's the average, really. It's the average of the two endpoints. In order to find this coordinate, the x component is the average of x1 and x2. So we would say it's x1 plus x2 divided by 2. And the y component is the same. It's the average of y2 and y1. So y1 plus y2 divided by 2. So that is what we call the midpoint formula. All right? So we're going to look at a couple of specific examples to see how this works, and then you can work on this yourselves. Okay, so there's our problem. Find the midpoint of the line segment connecting the points -2, 3, and 4, 2. Use a graph to explain the result. So we're going to start off by doing the first part, which is finding the midpoint of the line segment. Let's remember the formula. The formula is the average of each component. x1 plus x2 over 2, y1 plus y2 over 2. So let's do the first one, x1 plus x2 over 2, so that is -2 plus 4 over 2. And looking at y, y1 plus y2 over 2, 3 plus 2 over 2. Let's simplify that. -2 plus 4, so that's 2 over 2. 3 plus 2, that's 5 over 2. So our midpoint becomes 1 and 5 over 2. And let's, it says here we need to graph that to explain it. Let's just include the little graph here, which I've taken directly from the textbook. And there it is. So we have our two endpoints, -2, 3, and 4, 2, and we have calculated the coordinates of the midpoint. You could, of course, draw the graph and work it out in a more direct manner, but using this method we can make a general statement about midpoints of line segments. Okay, fabulous. Right, we're going to look at some problems, page 738. And there's a section there, 15 through 23. Now the questions are not asking you to show the graph of anything. This is just find the midpoint of the line segment connecting the given points. So that's what you do. I'm going to include them below now. And there they are. Okay. All right. Now we're going to extend this a little bit by checking to see whether our midpoint is actually correct. This is the first example we used, and this is the midpoint that we calculated. But we need to check if that is correct. And the way we can do that is to calculate and to see if the two halves of the line are the same length. And obviously the way we do that is using the distance formula, which I'm going to include here. Okay, so we need to see that those two distances, and we'll call them D1 and D2. If D1 and D2 are the same, then yes, we have found the midpoint. So let's do that. So for D1, we're going to say this is point 1 and this is point 2. So D1 equals the square root of 1 minus negative 2 squared plus 5 over 2 minus 3 squared. 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 squared is 9. 5 over 2 is 2.5 minus 3. That's minus a half. Squared is 1/4. Square root of 9 1/4. That's a square root of 37 over 4, which equals root 37 over 2. I'll leave it in that format because otherwise it's going to require rounding. Let's do the second point, D1 and D2. Sorry, we'll do point D2 and we'll change our point 1 and 2, point 1 and point 2. So let's change colour. For D2, it's the square root of x2 minus x1, 4 minus 1 squared, plus 2 minus 5 over 2 squared. 4 minus 1 is 3, 3 squared is 9, 2 minus 5 over 2, that's 2 minus 2.5, that's minus a half, all squared, that's 1/4. And this is obviously exactly the same distance, 37 over 4, which equals root 37 over 2. So yes, we have found that the length D1 and D2, the two segments that we have discovered that we're checking to see if they're the same length. Yes, they are the same length. Therefore, the point that we have found is the midpoint. Okay, great. So let's do some more examples. That's further down the page. It's questions 24 through 32. And there they are. Excellent. Okay, let's finish off with some word problems. I've got some here. So, question 35. Now, don't be put off by the fact that this has coordinates, that your values there have units. Just think of these as x and y. The horizontal distance, which would be x, that's the longitude. So this is the x component here, and this is the y component. Okay, so think of your values in those terms, and then just calculate them normally. Right? And then the very last problems, questions 36 and 37. Great, that's it. You're done.